Hi, I'm Jack Maxwell. Welcome to the High Road Live Q&A, which means you can ask me anything about the high road. So what is the high road exactly? Well, it started when I got cancer, believe it or not. Then I go into chemo. Then I get pain called neuropathy and inflammation. Never mind the cancer and the chemo. That was enough. But then I got this pain, and it was suggested to me to try CBD because I didn't want to do opiates if I didn't have to, because my father was a drug addict. You might have heard this story before. So somebody says to me, okay, try CBD. That somebody happened to be a doctor. And then I talked to a couple of friends, and they set me on this path. Well, that was last week's episode of The High Road, our pilot, if you will, our first episode. We covered all of that. That was the beginning. Then I went on a journey because once I discovered that CBD and even medical THC worked for things we never thought it worked for before, I was so curious then. I said, wait a minute, there's got to be other people out there who probably don't use or never thought of it for medicinal purposes. So I traveled the country. We went all over the place, and that became the High Road. These little mini episodes, mini segments that we do every Friday night at this time. We start off the Q&A at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Goes for half an hour now. Last week was only 15 minutes, but you had so many questions I couldn't get to. So we're going to make it half an hour now. So it's going to be every Friday night, 8:30, 5:30 Pacific. And then at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock, we're going to go right here. See this right here? Look for that. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, that thing you're seeing on the screen right now, look for that. And at the top of the hour, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, you just click right there. Unless you're watching this from my personal Facebook page. And then I guess you'll have to go to my YouTube channel and click on that right at the top of the hour. So it's 30 minutes of questions all about the show. I don't know if you're a basketball fan, but you might have happened to notice that guy. His name is Al Harrington. He was a former first-round pick of the Indiana Pacers in 1998 after being named the Naismith Player of the Year in high school. One of the few players, relatively speaking, to go right from high school to the NBA. He was drafted by Indiana. Then he goes to Atlanta, then back to Indiana. He goes to Golden State, New York, Denver, Orlando, Washington, then plays in China. 16 years in the NBA. Now you think a guy like that can just rest on his laurels, just sit on his money and say, I had a pretty good life. Not this guy. He's someone special. He decided to be an entrepreneur, but not just an entrepreneur that put his money, his resources, his time, his fame, all of it into helping people. And he decided through CBD research, cultivation, being a cannabis entrepreneur is the best way that he could help people. And it all started with his grandmother. I'm not going to go any more into that because we have the show to show. And then right after the show is on, and again, this is a little mini segment, 3, 4, 5 minutes long, depending on what week it is, I suppose. It'll roll right into an interview. And so we'll get a little more in depth, Al and I. But it was fun. He invited me to his house, and we had all this discussion about his family and his inspiration. And then we played hoop in the backyard. You're going to see all of that at the top of the hour. By the way, go Pacers. Yeah, a friend of mine recently sent me a picture of Reggie Miller in, I think it was 98. Same year Al got drafted, hitting a three to send it into Game 7, the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bulls. And he's a huge Pacer fan. He's in the picture going like this. When he sent it to me the first time, I didn't quite see that. He said, hey, did you see? Yeah, I saw it. No, did you see me? He said. So then I had to watch. Cool, courtside seats. That's a big fan right there. Anyway, last week, there were a lot of medical questions, and I totally understand about CBD. Should I use it for this or that or how to? And I'm not a doctor. Even though I had a doctor on with me in the post-show discussion, I don't feel I'm qualified, nor should I answer these questions about what to do. I can tell you my experience. So if we could limit the questions to the show or to your experiences, you can comment on cannabis, how it helped you. You want to know how it helped me? I'm happy to say that, but I just can't give medical advice. I won't even suggest that. I think before you start anything, you should always see a doctor. So let's get to some questions. Mick McGrath, do you think marijuana legalization will be federalized anytime soon? Well, as a friend of mine said, the genie's out of the bottle. The toothpaste is out of the tube. However you want to say that, I think it's coming. You know, and as far as the alcohol analogy goes, there was this big temperance movement who said, oh, it's horrible, it's bad, it's the devil. They finally got it prohibited. 1920 to 1933, we all know about that. The 18th Amendment made alcohol illegal, and then the 21st took away the 18th Amendment. So I think they saw the folly of that. Right after that, 1937, they said, oh, we got to make something illegal. What is it? What is it? And they decided to make hemp, cannabis, marijuana, whatever you want to. Even at the time, it was the Marijuana Tax Act. They spelled marijuana with an H instead of a J. And this is 1937. So is it going to be legal again? Because that's a long time, of course. And everybody thought it was bad. It was horrible. We stopped doing research on it. So I know that the Farm Bill of 2018 removed the prohibition, which is different than making something legal, I suppose. Removed the prohibition on hemp. And so I think marijuana, because cannabis grows as either hemp or marijuana, I think it's coming soon. Look, we already have 11 states that allow it recreationally as of this moment, 33 medicinally. So I think it's going to happen. I just don't know when. Sooner than later, I'm sure. Hi, Jack, says Amy Hull. My husband is taking CBD/THC, and it's helping for his neuropathy. It works for him. Yes, absolutely. It helped me for my neuropathy. And if you don't know what that is, by the way, it's severe and intense nerve pain that was caused by my chemo, worse than the cancer, but the cancer would have eventually killed me. So I had to do chemo. Hello from Connecticut. Hello, Connecticut. How are you? I bruised some ribs recently, says Tiffany Doyle Metcalf. Don't ask what I was doing. I won't. How could you say don't ask and not expect me to ask? I want you to come on now and tell me what you were doing that hurt your ribs. It was awful, and CBD balm helped so much. See, that's the beautiful thing about CBD. You know how it works. We all have cannabinoid receptors in our body, and when we're at a place of homeostasis or health and everything is like this, everything's okay. Everything's firing fine. So we take CBD to bring it back up when we're at dis-ease, if something's going on with us. I mean, obviously that's an oversimplification, but there's so many ways to get that into the body. Like they said, balm is one of them. I use tinctures when I use it, but there's pills, there's vapes, there's creams, salves, lotions, jellies, everything you could think of. Gummies, bath bombs for the bath. Jennifer Belt, it's legal in Canada. Yes, it is. It's nationally legal in Canada, so it's only a matter of time. I agree. As a matter of fact, Smoke Wallen wrote in the Tennessean just today an opinion piece that said if we classify CBD as a food additive, it could help the economy recover from COVID-19. They say by 2023, it's possible that this industry, just the CBD side, it's going to be worth about $23 billion in revenue. So that's pretty good. And maybe, we'll see. We'll see how that goes, of course. There's still some resistance to putting CBD or using it as in food and drinks. But I think the tide is turning finally. In Loudwire.com today, there was an article. Graham Hartman wrote it, I believe. And it's not peer-reviewed, but 6 researchers published a Canadian study that said of the 400 Health Canada strains that are approved, 13 of them, which were sativa strains, high in CBD concentration, helped with COVID-19 symptoms. So I think as we go further down this road, we're only going to find out more things about it. And again, I'm not making any medical claims. I'm just saying this is what I read today. And I know people will say that there's no scientific evidence. I believe if there is not, it's coming. I believe there's so much anecdotal evidence. I know people are being they're escaping from the suffering they have and the pain and the inflammation and everything else. And the real question is not whether it's good or not. I'm not saying it's a miracle cure, but why wasn't it available since 1937? Well, we didn't know about CBD. That came around in the 80s, I believe. I'm no expert, but I'm discovering through my own experiences. I'm learning, let's say. And every time I learn something, I'll bring it to you and say what I learned, but I'm certainly no expert. However, in the 80s, they discovered CBD and the application thereof. And ever since, because it was illegal, it's been a slow moving train, but it is moving. That's good. Okay, so Tiffany comes back to us and says she fell up the stairs on my deck, but I saved the case. I was a case of what? Were you drinking, Tiffany? Anyway, so this is open for questions. Anything you want to talk about? Last episode, the beginnings of my journey into the world of CBD and medicinal THC, or tonight's guest, Al Harrington, former first-round pick, 16 years in the NBA, and how this special moment in his life changed it. Now, we all have things that we can point to say, this person gave me words of advice, or this thing happened to me, or this thing I observed, and it changed the way I looked at life. The more you're in the moment, the more present you are, that's going to happen more often. And you're going to remember it's going to have more impact. Life's not going to go by in a blur. When I got cancer, yes, everyone said, you must have been so devastated. It's like as we say in the beginning of the show, a sucker punch and everything else. Okay, I said, I have cancer. Now what? It's not going to devastate me. If it kills me, it kills me. I'm not going to let it kill me, though. I wanted to stay positive. Yet I knew it's science and it's medicine. But I think here has so much to do with what happens to you. This is the only thing we can do, is the choices we make. That's the only control we have over it, is how we feel about what happens to us. I stayed positive. I did my treatments. I didn't feel down or sorry for myself. As you know, if you followed me on social media, I kept filming this television show I did called Booze Traveler. I know we call it Booze Explorer on the open of the show, for legal reasons, I suppose. But in any event, I think that no matter what hits you, how you look at it changes your perspective and can keep you going forward, because it's not just about getting through life. It's about getting through life and being happy, the search for happiness and what that means to you. Joyce Prendergast Bennis, is that how they say that right? I appreciate you sharing all this information. I've always been against marijuana because I thought it was a bad thing. But as a nurse, my clients use CBD. I'm changing my way of thinking because of this show. I hope to speak to a doctor to get my pain under control. And that's the exact right thing you should do. Speak to a doctor. I'm not saying use anything or don't use anything. Actually, I take that back. I'm saying use your mind, use your intellect to understand that there's education and knowledge out there that you probably haven't been exposed to because of the prior illegality of it all. So open your mind and say, maybe this is possible. Look, opiates have their place, but they've been known to kill people. So why, to you or anyone, is marijuana so much worse? Just because we were told it was. Think about it. As a little kid, you were scared by it. I know I was. I promised my mother I would never smoke marijuana or do any drugs because my father was a drug addict. I made that promise to her. That is hardly the same as heroin. Yet in 1970, Richard Nixon classified it as a Schedule I drug, the same as heroin, marijuana. Imagine that. We've come such a long way since then. I hope we'll continue to be moving down that road, let's say. Sherry Moyer Cromwell, did you notice when you were taking CBD, it made you less anxious? I want to be completely honest with you. I hardly ever get anxious about things. And it's not because I'm some guru or some Zen yogi who knows everything about everything and is always at peace. That's not true. The way I look at things, I'm very excitable, as you can see. You know, if you watch me from Booze Traveler, how much I love encounters with other people. It doesn't matter if it's with Maasai warriors or rice farmers in Japan or people on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter. Or people locally at the airport who come up to me and tell me they like the show or they like the experiences I had and they're doing the same thing. I just love people and encounters with nice people, kind people. So I don't know if it made me less anxious. It certainly didn't make me sleepy. I know that some people get sleepy, but I just felt more at peace for sure and less pain. Kevin Henry, hey, Jack. Who's still on your wish list to interview on your new show? Wow. Which new show? I got a few. Belly Up, Jack's Place, That's on Sunday nights. Come have a drink with me, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific. But on the high road, that's what we're talking about. Oh, I think there's so many great people. There are musicians who I'd like to have on. There are people who are leaders in the cannabis industry in many ways, not just the entrepreneurs, the scientists, the innovators. I know a few of those. We hope to have them on. We're going to bring you as many exciting and interesting people as we can. Usually it'll be the guest that's on the show with us, and that's coming up in about 15 minutes now, top of the hour, Al Harrington. So we'll have the show itself. Again, it's a mini segment because that's how it is on YouTube. That's a picture of him right there. You just click on that, and then the show will run right into an interview. So the whole thing, the show and the interview, that's about another 20 minutes to watch. And then, of course, you can ask questions next week about what you saw this week. That's how it goes. But specifically off the top of my head, there's just so many. I don't think I have 15 minutes. Take longer than that to tell you who I want to interview. Nathan James. Hey, Nathan. I'm not going to lie. I'm curious to try marijuana, but I'm scared. Maybe one day I'll try it, but only if I have someone I can trust near me just to help keep me safe. Well, I certainly don't want to make fun of your fear and how you feel about it. But why are you scared? Is it going to do something to you, you think? I mean, it is possible. If you've never had it, you're going to feel differently, for sure. But if you didn't feel differently, if it didn't affect you, it's just like breathing air or drinking water, right? It's certainly not an acid trip. I mean, that really, the experience of that, I think, is much greater. Let's say, the variables than marijuana. And again, I'm not an advocate for it to this day. Only if it helps you feel better about life, then I would advocate for it. And that would be anything, of course, and everything in moderation, especially moderation. So I think that's a good idea, Nathan. If you're going to try it, have someone with you that you trust to get you through it. But why are you trying it? Ask yourself that first. And of course, as always, if it's for medicinal purposes, you should always speak to a doctor. There you go. Any more questions we have? Teresa says, hi, Jack. Don't say that at the airport. Wondering, is CBD considered the medicinal part of marijuana? And what is THC? Both things come from the plant. And how do they separate it? Lots of questions as I'm lost on this subject. Well, thank you. Yes. Okay, I know I've said this many times, but for the people who have not heard it or don't know, basically, and again, this is from a layman's point of view, cannabis grows two ways. As hemp, which has CBD, basically, and less than 0.3% THC, and then as marijuana, which has 0.3% THC or greater. So that is the psychoactive ingredient, the THC, and CBD is not psychoactive. However, they discovered, again, I believe it was in the 80s, that CBD has so many medicinal benefits. So I hope that answers your question. In a basic sense, THC comes from the marijuana plant, at least enough to cause psychoactive effects. And CBD, generally speaking, comes from hemp. Now, there are traces of THC in hemp. So if you, I suppose, ingest hemp or whatever, I'm not saying what I'm saying. Sometimes CBD comes with the THC, but not enough to be psychoactive. So there you go. As always, there's plenty of research you can do on the internet to be more specific about that, because again, I'm no expert. Andy Rosen. Hi, Jack. Have you heard about how CBD can help with dogs? We have a large dog who has moderate arthritis. Funny you should say that. One of the episodes coming up in the next few weeks will be my experience with pet owners. And boy, I tell you, people who love their pets really love their pets. And I had a guy in tears because he was talking about his dog, 16-year-old dog who he thought was checking out. That was it. It was all over for this dog. He wasn't moving. Bad arthritis. There was a guy who had the hip dysplasia, which, of course, is horrible for dogs and happens quite often. And he figured it was it. This is it. It's all over. And a friend of his recommended some little bones and treats with CBD. And a week, maybe two, I forget the exact time frame, the dog bounced back. And he... in this guy's words, running around like a puppy. So you're going to see that again. So I'm a big believer that it has helped pets, again, only because I've heard it so many times. a pet's going to be honest with you. They're not going to try to hide if they're in pain or if they're feeling good. If a dog's jumping around, I'm pretty sure there's a direct correlation between the CBD and that activity, wouldn't you say, based on what the guy told me? So, yes, I'm a believer in that. But if you have stories, please let me know. Comment. Glenda Worley, if I had to have a drug test after using this at work, would I pass? I don't know. What do they test for? And using what? We talked about medicinal THC. I know somebody who was working at a healthcare facility here in Arizona, and she had a medical marijuana card. A company comes in and buys out the other company, the prior company, and they drug test her. And she's always been drug tested. But again, she had a medical marijuana card, and they fired her because they said, we don't care if you have a card. It showed up in your blood, and we don't want that. So it's going to be up to your employer. It's going to be up to what you take. It's going to be up to your sensitivity and how long it was in your system. So good luck. All right. Any other questions? We got about 10 minutes before we roll right into the show. Brian says, stay strong, Jack Maxwell, Boston strong. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. Most people know I'm from Boston. And yes, Boston strong, but individual strong as well, Julie Lineker. Hey, Jack, I tried a pot brownie once and was so sick. Just once? That's it? See, that's the thing about brownies. It's not regulated. The great thing about the state of the business now is that you're going to have consistency in product. And that's really important. And there are companies out there who are working on that right now. So as soon as it's regulated, and I don't mean over-regulated, you're going to be able to say, if this gummy says it has 20 milligrams of CBD or 10 milligrams of THC, it will have that. A pot brownie, you know how it was. I don't know how long ago that was, Julie, but you just throw stuff into brownies. You don't know. So of course you could get sick because I'm sure the person who made it didn't know how much THC was in the brownie. So that was back in the day. If you remember the TV show Taxi, Reverend Lloyd. Yeah, okay, doke. That guy, he was I believe, a professor at Harvard or Yale or something like that. And he tries a pot brownie and then he becomes Reverend Jim because back in the day, who knows? Strong stuff. Any other questions? We got about 7.5 minutes before we're going to go that. Matthew Pritchard says, oh, this is a basketball thing. Reggie Miller was the best three-point shooter in the NBA. He was an assassin. All right, well, I'm sure you're a Pacer fan then, right? Like the previous guy that was talking about that. How about Ray Allen? Deadly, right? How about Steph Curry? I mean, I think they're both pretty good. Hit the first three-pointer in the NBA. Anybody know that? Okay, so we'll get to that. Julie says just once, and it was about 3 years ago. All right, well, best of luck. I guess don't do that again. Don't do that again. So any basketball fans out there? Because we're rolling into Al Harrington pretty soon. The show and then an interview. The first NBA three-pointer of all time? Give you a hint. It was a Boston Celtic. Anyone? Became a coach later. Chris Ford. That's it. That's it. Some people think it was Larry Bird, of course, but, he was great. Talk about an assassin. He walks into the All-Star game, three-point shooting contest. He tells everybody, go home. I'm going to see who's second place because I'm going to win this thing. And he goes out there and just kills it. There's a lot of great three-point shooters. I got to say, though, I think as we go further, I guess in time, I mean, the athletes get bigger and stronger and better. That's just a fact. Nicole says, Jack, you rock. Oh, you don't have to come on just to say nice things. Thank you. I'm trying to read as many questions as possible. That's really nice. I appreciate that. Tammy McIntyre, you going to do anything for the Travel Channel again? I don't know. Never say never. They went in a different direction. They're, as you know, they're focused more on paranormal kind of stuff, and that's great. That's what works for them, and it works for a lot of people. So that's wonderful. No hard feelings with Travel Channel. But I was into different kind of spirits, as I say. So maybe, you never know. Jennifer says, what place do you want to visit now? I miss it all now. Not being able to travel, not being able to be with friends, hold them, hug them, say hi, tell them I love them. I miss travel now more than ever. Before I could just sling on a travel bag and just take off, even if it was for an overnight trip, or just jump on a plane, go to another country, another continent, especially when I was shooting the show. Oh, and being around people while I was traveling. Is it ever going to be the same again? Probably not exactly the same. We're going to have to adjust, but we always do. We're resilient, aren't we? We'll get through it. Carrie says, good to see you, Jack. All right. Darren Cowan. Hi, Darren. The best Canadian whiskey and best Canadian drink. You know, we never did an episode on Booze Traveler, so I have personal experiences, of course. What's yours? What's yours? See, I try to stay away from best labels as far as companies who make things, because it's all individual, isn't it? I mean, there are people who swear certain bourbons are better than others, you know, certain rums, or this beer is better than that. That's the beautiful thing about an opinion. You drink what you want, how you want it. Why not? We have any other questions there? Are you going to, Trey, Alpha, yes. Are you going to bring back the Never Drink Alone podcast? All right, it was called, what was that called? I Don't Drink Alone? Something like that? Am I going to? Well, maybe, but now because I'm doing things here on camera, not that you want to see my face, anybody. I'm not saying that, but I think it's more effective than a podcast is what I'm trying to say. I do Belly Up, which is on my YouTube channel. And that's a trivia game show where we have a couple of drinks and try to do trivia. And then, of course, we have this, the High Road live Q&A and the High Road show, then the High Road post-show discussion. So, and then I have Jack's Place, Sunday nights. And, oh, by the way, speaking of Jack's Place, let me tell you something about that real quick. And then we'll get into more questions before we get into Al Harrington and the show, the High Road, episode 2. On Sunday night, between now and Sunday, if you go to my YouTube channel and subscribe and turn on your notifications, I'll draw a couple of people, maybe 2, maybe 3, and I will have you on as guests on Jack's Place. Again, that's Sunday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. I just sit there and have a drink. We talk about anything. Belly Up, Booze Traveler, the High Road, anything you want to talk about. We have a drink together. We could do trivia. And it's more, this is a little more specific, the High Road, of course, but that is wide open. So if you'd like to be on, go to my YouTube channel, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and I'll draw a couple of names. And then we'll put you on like I am now, and we'll have a conversation. We'll have a drink together, and you'll be on with everybody else. I hope you don't have stage fright. I'm sure you don't. Anyway, that's why I'm not doing the podcast. I'm kind of busy doing all these other things. But thanks for asking, Trey. Bruce Atlas, how long did you live in Mass? And you think we'll have pot bars in the not-too-distant future, I presume you're saying. I don't know about that. Of course, I was in Amsterdam, and I woke up, had a few drinks the night before, and I wandered around. And I said, hey, I got to find a coffee shop. My head's a little fuzzy. Someone points me down the street. I go in. I say, yeah, you got espresso? You got cappuccino, latte, whatever? And they said, with this great accent, no, this is not that kind of coffee shop. If you go into a coffee shop in Amsterdam, it's to get high. You can sit there, and they give you whatever. And you buy however you want to ingest it, whether it's an edible or you smoke it or anything like that. So a coffee shop's not a coffee shop. Are we going to have that here? I don't know. How long did I live in Boston? I was born there, and the D Street Projects in South Boston. I lived there until I was just about 13 and moved to Phoenix, where I am now. But then I moved back after high school, 18, and then I went off. I lived in Vegas, lived in California. I was been in L.A. since 96. As you might know, I'm an actor as well. I started off acting. And let me see, I guess 94, I started acting. And so I was doing that. And then some hosting opportunities came my way. I didn't think I'd ever want to do that or that I could do it. And then, of course, Booze Traveler changed everything. I got to see the world, have drinks, meet people. They gave me that. I said, yeah, how do I say no to that? All right, we got about a minute and a half. Any other questions? We'll try to wrap this up as we roll into episode 2 of The High Road with Al Harrington. Now, I remember playing with him. So when he invited me to his house to talk about his life, his business, his basketball, Michael Jordan, all this other stuff, I said, listen, man, I'm happy to talk to you. That's great. I love that your grandmother inspired you, et cetera, et cetera. But if I'm coming to see you, I got to play basketball. We got to shoot hoop. And so the ball was a little flat, and it just got done raining. It was cold. Ball didn't really bounce. There were puddles on the court a little bit. And he took me outside and he challenged me. He said, you're going to shoot on my court. I'm going to challenge you. So you're going to see that in the show. And you're going to see the results of that challenge. And we talk about it afterwards as well. Now, you know I love a challenge. How do you think I did against Al Harrington, former NBA basketball player? All right. So we're winding down here into episode 2 of The High Road, and that will go right into my post-show discussion or callback discussion, if you will. Check out the letters of that with Al Harrington. Thank you for joining me. Stick around. We'll see you real soon. Here's